Hello. What I'd like to discuss in this video is how do we talk to a child about tics and Tourette's. Sometimes children are unaware that they have tics. Actually, rather often they are unaware, but the adults are aware of the tics, and the adults may begin responding to the tics or asking the child to stop doing that, or asking the child, why are you doing this? This is what we call a response, and one that tends to actually maintain or feed into the system that is producing tics. So one of our first jobs as adults in helping a child with tics is to manage our own response to the child's tics so that we aren't feeding into that system. One of the best things we can do is usually to try to ignore the tics if we can. Now, that may not be possible in some situations. We may be in a classroom where we just really cannot ignore the tics, where the tics may be producing significant disturbance to the classroom, or where the tics are producing discomfort or pain for the child. In all those situations, then yes, we're going to need to try to do something to manage the tics, and we want the child to be aware of what we are doing and why we are doing it. And that means trying to explain to the child in a way that they can understand what it is that their brain is doing, that it's nothing that they need to be ashamed or embarrassed about, and how to respond to it when it does this. One of the things that I find helpful in explaining to children the phenomenon of tics and as we would say, the Tourettic brain, is to explain to them that their brain is a fantastic problem-solving brain. So tics are an attempt at a solution, as far as the brain is concerned, for a problem that the brain has identified, but nobody else is aware of. So one way of thinking of this is and something that I think that might be easy to relate to for people who don't have tics. If you try to not blink and just keep your eyes open, what happens? Gradually you begin to feel that your eyes get dry, or they may begin to feel uncomfortable. We might be able to describe a number of physical sensations that show up. Maybe I would say my eyes start to feel cold, or itchy, or rough, and therefore I need to blink. And in this way, the brain has identified the sensation, what it feels in the eyes, and the solution, which is to blink, and therefore it fixes it. Our brains are really good at fixing things this way. There are so many things that we do throughout our lives that we find in a behavior we can do to fix a problem that our brains detect. That's because our brains are fantastic problem-solving machines. They do a really good job of this. For individuals with tics or Tourette's, their brains are also fantastic problem-solving machines. Now, the thing is that their brains may be so good at this that they are picking up on and identifying problems that other people's brains just kind of let slip on by. We usually talk about this in more technical terms as what's a premonitory urge or a premonitory sensory phenomenon. It's not actually a sensory phenomenon, but that's how we can describe and understand it. So that's some of the terminology that we use. As it feels almost like a sensation that comes before tics, but there's no actual cause for the sensation, it just kind of feels like it's there. And then we perform the tic, and it feels better for a little while. So that is the brain finding the problem and fixing the problem. So for children who have tics or Tourette's, their brains are doing what brains should do. They are finding problems and fixing problems. But their brains are finding problems that maybe other people's brains are not sensitive to, or are not aware of, or simply do not identify. And their brains still find a solution for them, which is the tic. Another way of framing this is to think of it and describe it as an enthusiastic fixer. So the Tourettic brain is a very enthusiastic fixer. It is really good at finding and fixing problems. And it will not let go very easily when it finds what it considers to be a problem. So it's maybe a bit of an overly enthusiastic fixer, but it's not something that we need to necessarily think of as a problem or a disorder that needs to be fixed. Instead, we learn how to manage, how to live with this, and appreciate it for when it is actually very useful. So our brains do a lot of good things for us. This is true for Tourettic brains just as it is for everybody else's brains. So this is one way I have found to help children begin to understand and relate to their brain in a way that is more accepting of their brain's tendency. It's like, yeah, my brain is really good at trying to find and fix problems. And it's quite energetic about it and quite enthusiastic. And sometimes I wish it wouldn't. Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit aggravating because it's just so overly enthusiastic. But it is still actually trying to help and trying to do its job. And so I'm not going to focus on being mad at my brain. I'll just try to find ways of helping my brain see when maybe it doesn't need to be fixing that. And I'll help it learn through practice that it doesn't have to fix this. All right. So stay tuned. We will talk about some of the things that tend to contribute to the development of tics and some of the unusual presentations that we see in children where maybe sudden strong tics seem to show up out of nowhere and there's no previous history of tics. Why does that happen? And what can we do to help children when that does happen? Thank you.